Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Sharon King, and I'm delighted to be here today with Lorna Hollinger. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, Sharon. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. And we are co-authors into a new book, Tap Into Your Best Life, which is now an international #1 best-selling book.
In
Uh,
six
um,
countries, no less.
in 6 countries, no less.
Countries.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, first of all, I'm going to introduce myself and then I'm going to hand over to Lorna. So, I'm Sharon King, international trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of Heal Your Birth, Heal Your Life. My work focuses on emotional imprints of conception, pregnancy, and birth, alongside ancestral patterns and past life influences, using EFT, quantum field tapping, and other consciousness-based healing approaches. My chapter in Tap Into Your Best Life shares my own traumatic birth experience and the loss of my partner, which led me on a profound journey of healing grief, trauma, and discovering the deeper connections between our earliest experiences and the lives that we create. Today, we are going to be talking about all things to do with trauma healing and transformation. And I know, Lorna, you're also you're a trainer in EFT, but also tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I'm Lorna. I'm from Sydney, Australia. So Sharon and I were laughing that she's sweltering in Thailand and I'm rugged up in Sydney because it's cold, or my version of cold. Yes, I started the Australian Tapping Institute. Well, I go back a step. I trained in EFT about 2011. I was already life coach trained and NLP trained. EFT absolutely changed the ballpark. It was, I need this in my practice. I need this for my clients. It's great to go setting goals, but there's something missing, and EFT was it. So got myself trained in it. And then a little bit down the track, I wanted to work with someone and couldn't find anyone in Australia trained to the level that I wanted. Therefore, the Australian Tapping Institute was born. I decided I wanted to train in EFT. I started at my dining room table here in Sydney, and people used to fly in. I know it was funny. People would fly in from all over the country to be in my trainings, and I'd pick them up from train stations or bus stops, and I'd bring them to my house and they would train in EFT. Eventually, I kind of geeky me went, there's got to be a better way. There's got
Mm.
to be an online version of this. So I looked at all of my training and I went, what are the not negotiables? How do you establish community? How do you get the beginners calls done? How do you get the connection? How do you get all those things that happen in a room happening online? And that was it. I went online by 2018. As we know, by 2019, end of that 2020, the world was closed. And pretty much every other school in the world closed but mine and one other,
Wow.
because we were already online and we've got established systems, routines, everything for anyone could think of to ask us a question. We've already solved the problem. And the other thing is,
Amazing.
I've recorded everything since 2018. So my library of learning training videos is
Yes.
ridiculous, ridiculous.
Yes.
No one's going to
Abs
get through them.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, my journey is pretty much similar to yours. I started EFT in 2007, learned matrix reimprinting in 2009, but also created the matrix birth reimprinting at that time because I started specializing in the birth area. So I too have quite a big library now because was teaching in person, but I also teach online. So I have quite a big library of that. And then I've gone on to create my own version of Matrix called Quantum Field Tapping, and also written a book called Heal Your Birth, Heal Your Life, which was published in 2015, which is all about how to heal from birth trauma, how to prevent birth trauma, and how to have a natural birth. So, and I know that you're also an author before the Tap Into Your Best Life as well. So tell us about your books.
I have the sassy book. Thank God he's gone. It's
Okay.
not a man bashing book at all. The what is it? The Smart Woman's Guide to Getting Back Your Personal Power, Reclaim Your Confidence. But the artwork is by a friend of mine, Tanya Leviz. So
Yes,
she
yes.
gave me permission for the artwork. And the title was just, it was just sassy. It
Love
speaks
it.
to my target market, and it literally is a personal empowerment book. Be
Yeah.
grateful it's done. It wasn't working for you any more than it was working for the other person. Let's step beyond that and start to create the life that you want. It's just
Wow.
a sassy title that really drags people in.
Love it. But what was the motivation behind your book, Lorna?
That book, so I have another one as well. I have an EFT book.
Oh,
So that's
You're
my
Not
most
Broke.
recent
Yes,
book.
that's your most recent one, and also a
That's
#1 bestseller. Yoo-hoo!
I know, it was so amazing. I popped an email to my list and just went, hey, by the way, I wrote a book. I didn't say anything about it, but because tap into your life, what's happening. I wrote a book. Here it is. And one of my students emailed and went, your book's amazing. It's bestseller. Here's some screenshots. I've gone, what? So I had 2 bestsellers in 3 weeks.
Wow,
They're
go
pretty awesome.
you,
I know. But the
go
motivation for
you.
the Thank God He's Gone was really, it was a personal passion project. It really has nothing to do with EFT. It was just a part of my healing journey, I think. I'm twice divorced. Why I did it the second time, I'll never know. But twice divorced, it was like, I just feel I've got stuff to heal, and I just wanted so many other people to be able to go, it's done, and now I can move on and build a brand new life and move out of victim. I was a victim. They did so much to me when they left. They didn't, but it took a long time for that healing. And I just wanted to, yeah, it's a very expensive passion project. As we know, books don't make a lot of money unless
Yeah.
you've got, big, hay house publishers or, any of the big name publishers. But yeah, it was a very much a passion project.
Wow. And your new book?
My new book is one of 10. So I have 10 of these I've in the process of writing. So they're all going to be You're Not Broken. And
Yes.
there's burnout, there's people pleasing, there's building a new life. Like there's just 10 of them. There's grief and trauma, or there's a grief one, there's a trauma one. So I've got all 10 of them kind of in different varying parts of being scoped and written, and very structured. So the first 3 chapters are very similar in each of them, with the
Mm,
messaging and lots and lots of tapping in them. Lots of tapping in them.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's funny. Just recently, I've been asked to do a talk where I live in Thailand about because I'm seeing lots of people in our female Facebook group as there's a lot of narcissistic relationships going on here, and a lot of abuse and blah blah blah. And it's not just necessarily men; it's women as well. So I was asked to put together a talk and do some tapping around that. And as I was putting it together, I'm going, I've got so much information here, I could write a book. So I'm now halfway through writing a book.
Excellent. That's
And
fantastic.
yes, and that will include lots of EFT, scripts and
Yeah,
things for people to work through because, it's part education, part healing.
yeah.
And also, it's interesting you mentioned the victim part, is like starting to move through that feeling of being a victim, and
And acknowledging
realizing,
it.
yes, acknowledging it, but
I just
also,
own it.
yes, but also taking some responsibility for allowing that behavior in the first place. And also, I talk a little bit about the red flags and what to look out for. There's so many warning signs that we just ignore because we're in the, got our rose tinted glasses on and we're just gonna,
Yeah.
oh, they're so sweet. And yeah, we're just gonna ignore that part of that.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it will get better. And then I'm sure it will
Yes.
get better. And I'm sure it's just a passing phase. And I think that's what one of the things us women do. We hang on for so long and try to resolve relationships, whether it's personal, you and I talked about business, and we hang on to those relationships of the always trying to be the one who fixes them and repairs them and
Yes.
makes it all work, and it'll be fine. And it ends up not being fine.
Yes,
Just
exactly.
put all this energy into it.
Absolutely. And from a highest perspective point of view, as I would be teaching in my about the life purpose or the life mission, I believe that when we come here, we kind of choose our parents, we choose our birth experience, but we also choose some of the experiences we're going to have, depending on what our mission is and what our soul wants to experience this lifetime. And if you want to look at it as karma, I tend to think of it as like unhealed trauma from other lifetimes that you bring into this lifetime to resolve, but also we take on the ancestral trauma to resolve as well. So everything, if you look at everything as unresolved trauma, I believe that we are here at this time in order to finish the pattern, to heal the pattern. And that's why we have such amazing modalities such as EFT in our lives to be able to help us do that.
Yeah, yeah, because otherwise you're showing up again to fix it again next time.
Yes,
So
exactly. Yes.
tell
So
us about that ancestral stuff, because I'm personally am fascinated. So I've had quantum, is that quantum similar type stuff? What you're talking about, quantum EFT, is that the
Uh,
no, you're
con
doing
qu
different
I've
again.
yeah, quantum field tapping is my version of matrix reimprinting, but it's the light matrix technique where I we go into it's a little bit probably similar to what Jenny Johnson teachings with her quantum EFT is
Yes.
the you go into the I like to call the light matrix as the place where we came from, you know, that higher, it's in another dimension. It's not higher because it's better, it's just more higher frequency. And it's like, so we go into that space in order to have a higher perspective looking down on what we've, you know, why we've come here. But I remember from my own personal experience of ancestral stuff is I was helping out on a course, and in the morning I woke up EFT course. I was an emotional helper. I woke up at 5 in the morning going, "Oh my God," with this realization that I was running the same pattern as my mother and my grandmother. So when I was 26, which I've written about in the Tap Into Your Best Life book, is I met a man, fell in love, you know, first 3 months, rose-colored glasses. He was in the SAS, he was my hero, and he went off to do a training trip. He was like quite high up in the regiment, and he was training new recruits. And unfortunately, there was an accident, and he was shot and killed on a training trip. So that he was my real love, my soulmate, as far as I was concerned. And like that finished, it ended. So not only you talking about writing a book about grief, you know, I had a 2 year experience of working through grief, and I didn't have the tools of tapping at that time because it
And a
wasn't
young woman
invented.
to boot.
I know, and I lost my future. I lost my because we were planning to live together, and he was building a house, and you know, anyway. So, so I believe that that was a. If you've ever watched Flash on Netflix, the series Flash, they talk about you can go back in time and you can change things, and it doesn't really change the timeline much, but there are fixed points that you can't change. So I believe that we have like every choice we make changes, you know, who we are or where we live, for instance, like me choosing to live in Thailand, but there are fixed points that can't be changed. And I believe that myself and Mark came together at that time, and that was a fixed point. That was a prior agreement before I got here. But it also meant that at many years later, I ended up in what I call my long-term relationship because we were together for 11 years, and I woke up with this realization as like, oh shit, you know, I'm doing what my mother did and what my grandmother did because my grandmother married a man who got killed in the war. And then she very quickly met my grandfather and married him on kind of on the rebound. But her first husband was her first love. And the same with my mother.
Mm.
You know, she fell in love with a man, that relationship finished. She met my father and married him on the rebound. So it was just like, oh my God, so there's this ancestral pattern down my female line, and I don't know how far it goes back, but that's what I consciously know. So in the light matrix, if I bring in my female ancestors that have all, you know, that have settled for second best, which is what I felt like I had done and my mother had done and my grandmother done, you bring them all in and you do tapping on them, you know. And I also I'm a color therapist, so I also use color as well, you know, and you work with them like in a shamanic way. It's just like
Oh, yeah.
sometimes we have this big fire in the middle and everybody throws the energy of the emotions into there, and then you may get an ancestors as a bit resistant to letting it go, so you have to do some tapping with him. So yeah, so these ancestral patterns can reoccur until they get healed.
Yeah.
But I also believe that we are also our ancestors,
Yeah.
which goes into the past life thing. So, sometimes it can be past life on its own. Sometimes it can you are your ancestor and you were that in that lifetime, or in part of you, an essence of your soul was had that experience. So everything to me is all about trauma completion so we can live our best lives.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I love all that stuff. Absolutely love it. So when you're working with a client, you're leading this session and you're leading them in the visualization and all.
Yes, but they're the ones doing the work.
Of course.
They're the ones that are working with their ancestors. They're the ones that are tapping with them and talking to them, and as they all agree, on how they want to clear it. There's various ways of clearing energy, and because you're in this other dimension with them, energy like there's often not need to go into the story unless you get somebody that goes, huh, well, I'm not, I'm going to be the one that's not going to let this go, because it's probably where it started with them. And then then you have to do a bit of work on that. But then you find out that, I will sneakily ask my client, well, was that you in that lifetime? Because there's usually not only resistance in them, but it's showing up a resistance in them to let go of it. So, yeah. So I believe we
Love
have
it.
this backpack before we come. We throw
Yeah.
in the past lives, the ancestral stuff, the choice points, the missions, what we want, and then we come in with our little rucksack, and yeah, we then just get on with life, but also connect in. One of the things that I love is the fact that I believe that once we've healed that trauma, we can then check back in and we can say, right, what's the next mission? Or what's the next experience that we need to do? Or do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's not, although these points are fixed, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of your life you have to go through trauma and
Mm,
clearing trauma. It means that, like, now you've done this part of the work, then you can like share this with the world, because I also believe all of our missions is to be of service to other people.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is fascinating. That is one of the spaces that I just love the idea of. Haven't delved into it too much. Had a couple of sessions and loved the sessions. Absolutely loved the sessions.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
particularly a lot of shamanic work. Done a whole bunch of work with an American gal
Mm,
who was in Australia for a period of time and did some friggin' awesome shamanic work with her over some retreats.
wow.
Very cool stuff.
Oh, awesome. So your chapter in the book is all about the father wound, is that right?
Mine is the father wound. Yes, indeed. So my stepmom tells me it was 7 years ago my dad died. So my mum had died when I was a teenager. So I was 18. My mum got cerebral aneurysms, and within about 2 weeks of being unwell, she's dead. Had them all over her head, big one in the back of the brain. She bled out. So my mum's gone. So I'm 18, my brother's 21, and my dad's in the pub. And that's pretty much where my dad stayed. He didn't cope. Mum was the bricks and the mortar of the whole
Yeah, yeah,
family.
yeah.
And there was only the three of us. We immigrated from Scotland, so we had nobody over here. It was just the
Yes.
four of us. So anyway, so my dad and I had a reasonably fractured relationship. He was very soft, he was very lovely, he was very Peter Pan. I reckon maybe 6 months if he was lucky. And he's in a brand new relationship with my now stepmom, who's lovely. But at the time, my mum and dad and her and her husband and all of them had been a whole bunch of friends. So
Right.
they already knew each other. So very
Yeah,
quickly settled into this very quick relationship. So in my mind, I lost my mum and my dad in very quick time
you did.
because he just
Yes.
went into her space and everything became about her. And it was
Yeah.
just path of least resistance. Everything was just about her. And he would come home to the family home and we'd go, oh, what are you doing home? Oh, well, she said I should come home and spend time with you. Well, you can just go and just go away because we don't want you here because we were just so hurt, so angry, so abandoned. So this was, I said, 18. Fast forward till only 7 years ago. and my dad passes over. A lot of the stuff that had happened with my dad, and I never talked to him about it. I knew he wouldn't get it, and I knew he didn't want to hear it, and I knew there wasn't a way I was going to get any resolution from him, and nothing was really going to change. I got on with him well. I got on with my stepmom, but it was fractured. I didn't spend a lot of time with him. So he passes over. I'm twice divorced by this stage and very, very angry. Very, very angry. So on the day he passes over, stepmom and sister are at the hospital. I turn up a few hours later because my phone's on silent. I don't get the call. Turn up there. We all spend some time with him. And I said to the nurse, and to stepmom, said, "We're going now. What happens next?" And she said, "Well, when you leave, we're going to take the body." I've gone, I'm not done with him. Not done with him. So the conversation for the next hour, needs to say, was very one-sided. He had nothing to say, that poor dead man. And I just let loose. Absolutely let loose of every single thing I wanted to say to him, everything that had been bottled up. I was angry. I was tapping while I was talking to him in the hot, and it was very, very, very aggressive. My dad always wanted perfect hair, so I even put my snotty nose on his hair and messed his hair up. It was just this final vindictive, petulanty, I just need to show you. So yeah, I probably spent an hour and a half with him of really letting loose, and went, now you need to heal this.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. It was a very conscious effort of, you need to heal the father wound.
Yes.
Moving through, I said, anger, disappointment at men in general, the expectations that I had on men and how they didn't live up to my standards, everything like that was on the cards, and was open slather, and I got to go and do it. So while I had been single for a decade, by that stage I dated on and off. Really, I didn't spend any time with anyone. I dated here and there, got bored after a couple of weeks because I really didn't want to be with anyone, because I just knew I wanted a better man in my life. I knew to do that, I needed to be a better woman, and not for him, me, to attract, as we talk energy, attract that person on a better sphere than I already was. And I knew, and really, I guess that's where the Thank God He's Gone sort of book came from, was part of that healing, because the book only launched in 2022, and my dad passed over at the end of 2018. So it really was that culmination of, and part of the book's written about that whole healing journey of being kind to men. And even I write part in the book, one of my daughter-in-law laughed, and she said, "You even write that men are human too." I said, yeah, because I don't know that I had come from that place of being a woman who was dating and angry and unhealed, that I came across the masculine as understanding that they were human, they had emotions and feelings, and they needed to be treated kindly too.
Yeah.
So that's really what my chapter. So probably 2 years ago, 18 months ago, I was on a podcast with Carol. So her and I were on each other's podcast, which is where I met her, and she floated the idea about this book. She wanted to do a collaboration book. Would I help her pull it together? Absolutely. And I never heard from her for ages and ages about it. And then sometime last year, it was ready to write the book. And by the way, Lorna, I think you need to write about the father wound. So I didn't really get a choice in my chapter. She said, I think this is what you need. Someone else had done the mother wound. I think she tapped with someone who'd done the mother. And she said, I know who'll do the father. And it was me.
Wow.
It's very powerful, very, very cathartic. As you know, writing a book's very cathartic. There are chapters written that will never see the light of day. Never, ever will they. But yet they needed to be written. They needed to come out. They needed to be expressed.
Yeah. Yes, but there's nothing like writing a book to also bring up all your negative beliefs about yourself as well.
Yes. If you want to be exposed, go write a book.
Yes.
But I'd also recommend to people, consider actually, really, honestly, writing a book.
Absolutely.
Write your story. Everyone has a story, and there's just something about your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you think about your father now, Lorna, how do you feel?
I feel very loving towards him. He was a beautiful soul. He was very kind and very gentle. I remember in the hospital with him because we knew he was dying. His body was deteriorating, his muscles were atrophying, he couldn't sit up, and it was only weeks, it was only a matter of time. And he was only days out from him passing over, and he said, "So what is it that you actually do?" I go, "Now you want to know?" He goes, "Yeah, I actually do." He said, "I'm scared to pass over. Can you tell me how to do it? Will you help me?" He said, "Because
Wow.
I'm terrified." Yeah. Yeah, tell me what to do. And the next day I walked in the hospital bed and here's my mum who's passed out. My mum's standing there holding one hand and my stepmom's standing there holding the other hand. And I've gone, oh, this is a bit big. Walked in and stepmom goes, "Are you okay?" "Fine."
Yeah. We won't talk about your mother standing there holding his hand on the other
Yeah.
side.
I told dad that during the time, but yeah, it was just very, yeah, it was his time. I felt incredibly grateful that I got the opportunity to actually help him over, to actually talk to
Mm,
him, come, settle him, let him be, not terrified of it, not be scared of it. My wording to him was, "Well, I'd be scared if I was you, because when you get over there, the amount of misbehaving you've done since mum's died, she's going to be waiting for you." So I did hand it up and tormented him about it. But yeah, he was just a lovely gentleman. He was doing the best he could. He had
mm.
substantial trauma, particularly from my mum passing away. He'd been overseas and came back, and then she got sick, and it was just, he just had guilt. He had
Yes.
guilt. He went to the bottle. He didn't know how to do anything other
No.
than just grieve. And he never got over. I believe she was the love of his life, and he just never got over it.
Yeah.
Never got over it. My blessed, beautiful stepmom, who I love to bits. She was so lovely. She looked after him in his horrible moments of being a not very nice drunken man on many an occasion, and I would have booted him to the curb. But I'm so grateful she didn't, because he would have been my problem.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. So there was her mission in order to take care of him. That was lovely.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
lovely of her, and yeah, encouraging her now. And I do a lot to look after her now, because I think you've done your bit. You nursed my
Yeah.
dad to his deathbed. She nursed my grandma to her deathbed. You
Hmm.
deserve to be looked after now, and someone to really be there as your support.
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah,
That's
because
so
it wasn't, but I
lovely.
did have a relationship to her with her till dad died, though.
Yes.
I
Okay.
could then be friends with her.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh,
So
well,
yeah, it's been a journey.
my father had dementia for 11 years.
Oh,
So that was a very long journey. And, you're writing a book about grief. There's so many different ways of that grief hits you. With Mark, it was sudden, it was unexpected, it was dramatic. I was expecting, he promised me I'd be the first person he would come and see when he came back. And actually I was, because he came to see me. Um, and then he hung around for about 2 months until he passed over. And then I had to go through the grieving process all over again because I lost that connection with him. And you try telling somebody who didn't understand that he was dead, that he didn't have a body anymore, that he was actually dead. So that was a bit of a hard conversation to have.
so did you know he was dead before official authorities told you he'd been killed?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Because the day he died, because he was in Belize, the day he died was the day that I received his letter. Okay, because like back then there was like army mail, there was no email, there was no,
Yeah.
text messaging, it was a blue enveloped army, airmail
Yep.
letter that came to me. So that morning I read that and I was so sort of excited to get his, and I spent all day, writing a message back and raced down the post office, to get it posted that same day so it got back to him in Belize, and so I was still in that excited. So even I didn't, I didn't actually find out until my friend came to tell me 2 days later um,
Oh,
that that had happened. And then his body wasn't flown home another 5 days later. So I went through all the denial, the shock, this can't be happening, this is all a big joke, blah blah blah, until he come and knocked on my bedroom door at 2 o'clock in the morning, like frantically banging on my door, and I opened the door and there he is, like standing there going, "What's going on?" Like, "Okay, come in, sit down."
Oh,
So that is, one type of big, shocking grief. There's lots to the story after that, but with my father, it was an 11-year journey with dementia of losing him bit by bit by bit by bit. And I don't know, to be honest with you, that like if they're both terrible journeys and they're both painful in different ways. So, for your father, for instance, it was a matter of weeks, months.
it was a matter of weeks. I reckon 4,
Yes.
maybe 5 at the absolute most.
Yes.
For
So
him,
if
lucky for him. And
yes, so if
he was very compass. He was not, he had no dementia, nothing. He was switched
perfect.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a little bit of time to prepare yourself, so it doesn't come as a massive shock,
Mm.
but it's not dragged on over a long period of time. So yeah, but on the my father stopped eating and drinking for 7 days. They told me 3 days. Nobody can survive without water and food for more than 3 days. It took 7 days for him to die. And I would go in, I had my color mirror spritzers. I had this chanting, beautiful chanting that was doing the Ho'oponopono, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. So I had one of these earbuds in his ear because he was totally unconscious. So unconscious, not unconscious. So I'm chanting, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I'm clearing the air with the spritzers, I'm tapping for how I think he might be feeling. And the nursing staff always said to me, like, as soon as you've gone, he's very still, he's very quiet. There's no big stuff going on for him. He's just very, very peaceful. So I feel like in those 7 days we cleared a lot. A bit
Mm.
like you clearing with your anger. For me, I was just very gently just allowing him, encouraging him just to let go of his body.
Yeah.
And I knew he was hanging on for something, and I never knew what that something was. But I think he wanted me to connect with my brother's children. And on the day that my one of my brother's children reached out to me through Facebook, then that was the day he died. So I think he just wanted to make sure his grandchildren were right because we weren't really speaking because my brother couldn't handle my father with dementia, so didn't see him for that 11 years, which meant that
Oh,
his children
yes.
didn't get to see him. So, and talk about anger at the masculine or anger there, I was very
Mm.
angry with him until when my mother was sick. She had bowel cancer and she had an operation on life support. And he just said, I don't know that I can go in and see her. And I said, you've got to.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. You've got no choice. I allowed you to have a choice with dad, but you can't not go in with mum. And he just said, I am so sorry I left you to deal with all of that. And those words just melted away all my anger because I suddenly knew that he understood,
Mm.
because there was days I didn't want to go in and see my father. So, the power, that really taught me the power of the word sorry. And, so if I'm doing EFT with somebody and, it's just bringing that in, or even just saying to somebody, I'm really sorry you had that experience,
Mm.
then that just yeah, that just makes you feel heard, seen, and validated for what happened.
And which is, with some instances, with some stuff that's happened, that's all somebody needs.
Yes.
Just to feel heard or seen in some capacity.
Yeah.
Some capacity.
Yeah.
So, wow. So, tell me, in Thailand, because you live in Thailand, do you work with the locals, or do you working more with expats? Who's sort of your client market, or are you online and you're?
I'm online. I'm
Yeah. Okay.
online. Um, there, there's a visa issue here. So, yes, so I don't work with clients openly here because of I would love to, run retreats, and some people do,
Mm.
but right now there's a bit of a clamp down. So, I'm going to wait until I get my proper business visa, and then I will be in there running retreats and, we're running workshops here. Because it's just, I live on a little island called Koh Phangan, which is very much known to be the yoga island, the detox, the spiritual. the
Ah,
healing space out of all of Thailand, and this is the like the hub of where all the the retreat centers and things like that.
yeah, good. Okay.
So lots of breath work and ice baths and ecstatic dances, and yeah, there's always um, there's some not so ayahuasca ceremonies. Shh, don't tell anybody, but there's a lot going on here in this, it's a very spiritual minded community. So
Wow.
yeah, so I'm in the right place. I just need to have the right visa in order to be able to
Yeah.
work. But I just teach online, and that suits me too.
Yep. So did
So
you go to that island knowing what it was like? Because I've never heard of it. I've been to Phuket and I've been to Koh Samui, but I've never heard of that little
well,
island.
Koh Phangan is right next door to Koh Samui.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I I came here in March 2020, on the 9th of March 2020, just before the lockdowns, and I was coming for 1 month, and for 2 weeks of that month I was helping out because I'm also a Soma breath instructor, so I teach breath work. So I was helping out on a retreat in a beautiful five-star luxury hotel with an infinity pool looking over the beach, all the facilities. And it was like right in the middle of that 2 weeks that everything kind of closed down. So we had a couple of days' notice that we could leave if we wanted to, but the whole group decided to stay because there was only 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So like there was people from all over the world. So, there was my students from Chile, there were people from Canada, there was people from South Africa, and all over the world, and all congregated to do this retreat. And we all stayed. And I think the first people started to leave. I think it was probably the girls from Chile. They put on a special flight to gather up all the people from Chile in Thailand to fly back to Thailand. So there were special planes put on for people. And I was like, nah, I'm going to stay here. Thank you very much. And 6.5 years later, I'm still here. Sold up my house in the
Amazing.
UK, built a house here in Thailand. Yeah, I love it.
Wow.
I love
Yeah, I
it.
don't blame you. Gosh, wow.
Yes. So, I knew the funny thing is I knew intuitively for 2 years that I was going to be leaving the UK. And I'd been doing lots of Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats because I love Dr.
Hmm.
Joe Dispenza's meditations and manifestation. And, it was just incredible. And we created a mind movie where you put in, you decide what it is you want to manifest, and then you put in pictures, you put in affirmations, you put some amazing music to it, and then you just meditate and allow that to go into your subconscious. So I knew I wanted to leave the UK, and I was trying to manifest the relationship. But all looking back, all of my pictures were all sunset pictures and tropical islands, and there was even a horizontal coconut tree that people would sit on and have their photograph taken. And I was staying after I left the hotel. I'd gone back to my bungalow on the beach, which had a horizontal coconut tree where couples would sit on and have their photograph. And it took me 6 months to realize that that was in my mind movie. Still trying to manifest the relationship, but I got the I got the beach. There was a scuba diving picture. There was paddle boarding, all the things that happen here. It was just like I'm laughing to myself as I manifested all of that.
I remember having these images and things drop into my head, and it was a house that I'd built in Sydney. And I knew this house so intimately. I drew the floor plan, and I've still got it. I've got all the floor plan drawn. Talked to a friend, could you build it for me? Yeah, maybe. And the thing that haunted me was that there was no man around. There was no man in this house, and I knew it was going to be my home. I was still married. I was like, oops, this is a bit, and it just kept dropping in, and I just kept, I don't know whether it was a dream, a vision, or whatever it was, but it was recurring, and I'd be walking around, and I thought, oh, this is going south.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That reminds me of a picture I drew of a house that was up on stilts, and I'd put me, a dog, and a couple of cats walking along the beach. So I've actually realized afterwards that I've actually built almost the exact picture that I drew back then. And I have three cats and a dog No, still waiting for the man, but I did put him in the picture, but I was single at the time,
No,
so I'm
well,
sure he'll rock up sometime.
yeah, I know I was single for a decade before Adam turned up, and I'm like, you took your sweet time, dude. But I remember
Okay.
asking Pendulum, like, where is he? And it was just be patient. He hasn't sorted his stuff.
Oh, oh, oh.
But I could live with that to go, fine. Okay, I could be patient a bit longer. Be patient. And eventually, yeah,
Absolutely.
he showed up.
Wow. And how did you meet him?
I met him on Tinder of all places. I had
Go
been,
you.
I'd done dating apps before and I've been, oh, maybe I could try Tinder. Maybe I'll wait till after my birthday. Oh, maybe I'll do it before my birthday. Oh, well, I could do it. And eventually I just created this profile with this friend, created my profile, and I would do these rituals after I dated someone that I'd do a whole cleansing. And I would have a table that was almost like a little ritual type table where I put all the things that were important for me to experience with him on this little table, like a little shrine. It was, yeah, I had cutlery because I wanted him to cook for me. I had padlock of a suitcase padlock so he would travel, and tree of life and all sorts of hippie, and it was all the stuff that was all about him. So I'd pull it all
Yes.
down, cleanse it all, and I'd rebuild it. And then I'd go to my journal and I'd write down all the traits, not the things about him, not what he looked like, but just all the things I wanted to experience with this person. Every time I broke up with someone, I did that and wrote it all down. So I reckon I did that probably 2 weeks before I joined Tinder. And I think I was on Tinder maybe 2 days before Adam and I swiped right on each other. I was going away for my birthday, came back, we met up. Our first date was 7 hours. And then we sat in our own homes and text till 1 in the morning. And I deleted Tinder that day. I just knew
You just
him.
knew. Yes.
I knew him. I knew him from before. And he said to me, he said, I kept sitting at that date thinking, God, I know her from somewhere. Said, yep, I know where we've met. And I'm positive we've done many past lives together where we've
Yes.
known each other. And that was my impatience of this time. Like, seriously, you've made me wait this long. What were
Yes.
you doing?
Exactly.
Sorting his own divorce out.
Yeah. Yes. There has to be a readiness on both sides, not just one side, unfortunately.
That's,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And you think about your journey and what you do. And I always say to people, like, do the work. The work is so
Yes.
worth it. Because without the work, I would not have got to Adam. It just would not have happened. Where he was and what he's like, and his beliefs and all the rest of it, we just wouldn't have aligned.
Mm.
You're back. You had frozen. You're back.
Yes. Got a little, I could hear you all through that, so hopefully it was all good. But yeah, I mean, I felt like that with Mark, it was love at first sight, but yeah, and it was the same for him too, but it
Yeah.
was such an intense 3 months and then it ended so quickly. But, I've seen other lifetimes where we've been together and no other lifetimes we'll be together again. And, you know, if he was to rock up in my life now, I'm such a totally different person to how I was when I was 26.
Yeah.
So, I would not want a man now that I mean, he was so busy. He was in the SAS, he was a jockey, professional jockey, he was a part-time bodyguard, he used to bodyguard for people like Princess Diana and Madonna, and he was a farmer, he helped his parents out on the farm, and like in between that, he saw me. And it was just like, now that would not be the relationship that I would want now because I would want a little bit more attention than that. But at the
You'd want a
time,
lot more attention. Let's be serious.
yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not
exactly.
play that down.
Yes. And then he was going off and fighting his good fight and all of that stuff. But anyway, at the time I was just so smitten I didn't care.
Mm.
Now I would care.
That beautiful thing we women learn as we age and mature.
Exactly.
What do I want? How important is it? And where is my no compromise line? Or maybe that's just
Exactly.
me.
Yeah. And how do I want them to or how do I want to feel when I'm around them and how do I want them to make me feel? One of the courses I teach is all about values, and people go into these relationships and not realize what their values are. I'm an Aquarian, so I also do value freedom. But if I have a man that doesn't value my freedom, And, because I value their freedom, because I know how much I need my own freedom. Not that I want to go off and have affairs and things like that,
Yeah,
but
not that.
yeah, that's not the freedom I'm talking about. It's the freedom to be me. And if I've got somebody that wants to control me and stifle who I am, it's just like, no, off you go. That's why I'm writing a book about narcissism. It's just like because I can spot one of those at a mile. And
Can you?
I've had a few narcissistic relationships that have not lasted very long, but my gosh, my gosh, they were experiences.
Yeah, I love the values work, and if anyone listening to come and do that course with you, because knowing mine, so mine are freedom, determined, playful, and passionate, and they are my four. And if it's not hitting those markers, I
Yes,
know I will be bored. I won't want to do
yes,
it, and I won't. I literally won't do it. It has to hit
exactly.
all
Yes.
four of those markers, three at a push. But yeah, they just and they've stayed with me for years.
Yeah,
And when you know those that, well, it's not fitting these, you know it's not for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Makes life so easy when you actually know your
it
values.
does. Yeah. Kindness would be one of my top ones, maybe not my top three, but somebody who's kind and compassionate, but also I'm just trying to think of what, because sometimes mine change depending on how I'm feeling at the time. But, right now I'm just seeing how in the world, there's a lot of unkindness. And I think if we can get back to kindness, then
Hmm.
most other things would actually would run a lot smoother.
Yeah, you are right. Just that lack of thought that there's anybody else that you're impacting. That
Yes.
complete, I'm in this complete bubble. Well, you're not actually in a bubble. You're just inconsiderate, not even noticing that there's other humans around you.
Yeah, yeah, and awareness, I guess, your own self-awareness. Somebody has to be self-aware. I think as because we're both, in the healing modalities, EFT and looking in and working on our stuff and clearing our stuff and noticing as it comes up and clearing as we go. I would not want to be in a relationship with a man who had not done his work
Correct.
because I wouldn't want to be his therapist.
Mm-hmm. Been there. I think we've all been there, done that.
Yeah. Somebody that's self-responsible, takes self-responsibility. Like today, I'm feeling really angry. Like if I do snap at you, I'm really sorry. It's not your fault, but I'm really friggin' angry.
Yeah.
Honesty, being authentic.
Yeah.
And these are the qualities that we need to be writing down on a bit of paper about what we
Yeah.
want. And you need to get very detailed about it because my friend always says that, she wrote four things down of what she wanted in a man, and that's all she got, those four things. She just thought everything else would just fill itself in, and it didn't. They were just those four
No.
things.
I would go on dates and I'd come home and I'd sit and say to the universe, that was not funny. That was not the least bit funny. I know you thought it was funny, but it was not funny. Okay,
Yes,
back out to that journal.
yes,
Clearly I've missed some criteria here.
yes. And thank you for showing me what I don't want.
Absolutely. And I
Getting
learned
clear
it
on what I
from
do want.
there's a guy called Nick Brew, I think his name was. He wrote a book called Single No More. It's a little thing I found on Amazon. It wasn't very expensive. And I read his book. And he was the guy, write the traits. He's a manifesting guy. That's right. He does a lot of manifesting and law of attraction. And he was
Mm,
the one that said, write the traits, write them down, write 50 of them, see what you
yeah,
think.
yeah.
And I think he might have
Awesome.
been the setting the shrine guy as well. Anyway,
Mm, awesome. Lorna, it's been so much fun chatting with you, and we could probably we need to do this again and just
yes, we do.
have more chats like this. But yeah, everybody, just to remind you again, tap into your best life, and also your other
Bella.
book, bestseller, number
Oh,
one
yes.
bestseller, and your other book. Come on,
This
and your
one
other two. Yep, and the other
and
one.
this one.
And I don't have my Heal Your Birth, Heal Your Life book, but pretend I am holding it up. Awesome.
Yes. It has been wonderful. And thank you so much for having me. Thanks for sharing and for bringing this together for both of us. And yeah,
You're very, very
great.
welcome, Lorna. And let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
Do it again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.